What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Best One, Worst One, the show that takes a look at your favorite movies, actors, directors, and a variety of other topics, and we ask you to choose the best one and the worst one. On today's episode, my co-host Lola and I are joined by her fiancé, Nate Davenport. Nate, it is an honor to have you on the podcast, man.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's wonderful that you're just intruding on my space like this.
Yeah, this is my master plan to infiltrate your thing, and here I am. Talking about my favorite director.
Yes, we are here to talk about David Fincher, one of the best and most unique directors, I think, ever. I think he has a very unique style. He does his own thing. I like the way he's able to take what's written on the page and direct something incredible. So I want to start off like we do every episode, and Nate, we'll start with you. What was the first Fincher movie you ever saw?
Oh, man. First David Fincher I ever saw, I guess, would have been The Game.
Oh, okay.
I think that would have been the first one. Well, no. Yeah, I guess it was The Game. Yeah. Obviously a deep film, psychological thriller, but we liked it in my household. We didn't really get a whole lot of dark stuff in my house. So that was on the edgier side of things. And I'm pretty sure there were members of my family that didn't like it. But no, that was a roller coaster. And then, once I saw Fight Club, then I knew who David Fincher was. But yeah, I would have been The Game first.
Yeah, The Game is a great film. Lola, what about you?
Well, I saw Seven, was the first Fincher movie I ever saw. And I did a little backpedaling through my memories and realized that I saw it for the first time at 11 years old.
It's crazy.
And, I have a lot of questions about who I am as a person. And as soon as I made that connection, I understood myself fully. Like, why am I listening to true crime podcasts all the time? Why do I read every serial killer entry on Wikipedia? It's David Fincher's fault.
So did you sneak in to the movie, or how'd you get in?
I don't know. I don't even remember. I know that I saw it, and my mother caught me watching it and made me leave the room when the lust part came on.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it is rough, and I like that Fincher doesn't pull his punches. Speaking of punching, the first Fincher movie I ever saw was Fight Club.
Nice segue.
He's a professional.
Fight Club is an incredible movie, and I think we're going to be saying that a lot about Fincher's movies, which is going to be interesting when we get to our worst picks. So that's going to be really interesting. I love what Fincher is able to do with characters, what he does with camera movement. I just love everything that guy does. So, well, not everything, but let's start off. Let's dive in. Nate, let's start with you. What is your honorable mention for the best David Fincher movie?
Okay, well, this is going to be surprising, I think, for some in this room, but because this has been my personal favorite film for probably the last 10, 12 years. But my honorable mention is going to be Fight Club.
Okay. I am shook that is your honorable mention.
And it may or may not still be my favorite all-time movie ever, but when I was looking objectively at the work of David Fincher and what I think is the best, not just what relates to me personally, I don't go Fight Club for the first best. I go honorable mention. So obviously this is the first film that I saw when I guess I would have been 18 when I saw it. And just a coming-of-age thing for me, and identified with me a lot personally in, questions of what does it mean to be a man, and all these very philosophical things that both Palahniuk, the author of the book, and Fincher went into. And Fincher just really, later, I read the book, and Fincher just completely got the tone that Palahniuk, I think, was going for. And then I tried to read another Chuck Palahniuk book, and it wasn't for me.
You try to read Choke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe not.
So what do you love about Fight Club? Like, what does it for you that it was your favorite movie for so long?
Oh, man. So I enjoy that. Well, first of all, it's a twist movie. It's, sorry, spoilers, 20 years.
25, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like craziness.
Statute of limitations is gone. So the twist is great. I love the themes of, I guess, kind of themes that I needed to hear at that age, like you're not your job. This is there's more to life than material possessions. You know, they take a very primal outlook with let's beat each other in the face, and that'll be how we realize that we're actually alive and living a life that, you know, means something. But also tearing down the establishment, and it was just kind of teenage boy, you know, kind of like, yeah, let's do this, let's Project Mayhem.
Yeah.
And I love Edward Norton, and obviously I like Brad Pitt, so those are fantastic actors. And but yeah, it's just always been kind of a. I mean, I've seen Fight Club probably, I think probably 200 times. Just it used to be just something I would put on every day, and I would just, you know, just feel normal.
What I'm marrying,
Yep.
you guys.
Yep.
I put on Fight Club every day to feel normal.
So now you know why we work. That from me, and then 7 at 11 for her.
Well, how do you feel watching Fight Club as a grown-ass man?
Obviously, a lot of nostalgia, and so when you put it on, you're not just watching a movie in a vacuum for the first time. You're bringing all those experiences from when you were 18 to now, to kind of, it's been through a lot with me, I guess the movie has. So there's a comfort to it, and there's also just some things that I'm like, oh yeah, interesting. I you know, you didn't really see certain things like I remember being so surprised to later find out that Fight Club had a huge support in the gay community because of the line, we're a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need. And they were like, yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. So just little things that kind of come out of that. I've done a lot of studying on dissociative fugue and dissociative identity disorder, which are the things that he has. So I wrote a couple of essays on this in school as well.
Yeah, when you bust out dissociative fugue disorder on our podcast, I'm like, what professor did you write this shit for?
Yeah.
Come on here and act like you're a psychologist.
I can't remember his name. Sorry. Oh, Neil Holland. That would have been
my
him.
God. I didn't really want an answer.
So I have to give my honorable mention to Fight Club as well.
Okay. All right.
I absolutely love Fight Club, but it's just not my best, right? For pretty much everything that you said, I loved everything about breaking down the world around us. The idea that, like you said, again, we are not our possessions. We are not our things. And even to this day, I still think about, like, I don't want any of my electronics. I want to throw away my phone. I want to throw away my laptop. And I just want to live free and travel the world, you know what I mean? And just live life to the fullest, because at the end, what are you going to look back on? The possessions that you leave behind, or the legacy that you lived? You know what I mean? So that was something that's really spoke to me. And the twist, man, twist is absolutely incredible, to find out that he was Tyler Durden the entire time. Everything that Tyler did was him doing it, and it was because he had to create this persona to battle the pathetic life that he was actually living, the job that he hates, constantly being having insomnia, all of these different things. And the phrase toxic masculinity gets tossed around a lot with Fight Club, and I personally don't see it. I feel like it's just a film. I feel like it's just a representation of how these guys go about getting rid of, I don't know, the things that they don't want to deal with at home or at their jobs. This is how they release that. Like, this podcast is my release. I love talking about movies. This is my escape from my regular life where I have to pay bills and all of that shit. I just get to sit with my friends and talk about movies. That's my escape. And for these guys, that's their escape. So that spoke to me a lot. And I just love everything about Fight Club. When you look at it through a lens, watching it over and over again, and you see when Tyler is talking about he's working and he has the film reel and you see the cigarette burn in the corner, you realize that Brad Pitt's character is constantly breaking through the film throughout the beginning of the movie before you actually see him. And when you see him, that personality has completely manifested itself after trying to break through. When you see stuff like that, those are themes that makes Fincher an incredible director to me, and that's why I had to pick it as my honorable mention. So Lola, let's move on with you. What's your pick for honorable mention?
Well, it's not Fight Club. Sorry, guys. I think that my honorable mention is going to be The Social Network by Fincher. I didn't want to see The Social Network. I thought it was going to be super boring. Like, I have very negative views on Facebook and just was like, there's no way this, and you know how I feel about Armie Hammer. I mean, I can't say more how much I dislike him. And then, of course, Nate wanted me to see the movie. And I would say within the first 5 minutes, I realized this film is very different. This film is not what I thought it was going to be. It is amazing. Also, I mean, you're not going to go wrong with a script by Aaron Sorkin. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think a lot of people might say any movie written by Aaron Sorkin is going to be good, but you need the right director to bring Aaron Sorkin's words and his conversations to life. Mm-hmm. And I think Fincher really did that. That opening scene in the bar between Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg and Rooney Mara as, what's her name?
I can't remember.
Bridget feels right.
We'll call her Bridget.
It's like
Erica Albright.
Is it Albright? Yeah, Erica Albright. It's a very intense back and forth, kind of verbal tennis match like you would expect from Sorkin, but it's filmed in that very Fincher way of like, it looks like a close-up, but it's not. You can see the actor framed very clearly in the front, but you also have the full widescreen of what's happening in the bar behind it. I think that it's a very fast-paced. I mean, he fits the entire story of Facebook into this movie. That's what, 2.5 hours? Right at 2 hours, actually, I think. I cheated. I looked at the screen where it's up. It's exactly 2 hours.
It's a shorter Fincher movie.
Shorter Fincher movie, but it feels more full than a lot of his movies. The way that he shot it with the memories, the flashbacks, and then the courtroom scene, and then the flashback, and then the courtroom scene. I think Fincher likes to bring terrible people to life. And even the heroes of his movies are generally extremely flawed human beings. And you can see that.
Because we are flawed.
Yeah, and he lives there. He lives in that space of the darker side of humanity and what it would look like to be an asshole who gets money, which is essentially what Mark Zuckerberg is. And props up to Jesse Eisenberg's performance in that film. You never think you're going to feel empathy for Mark Zuckerberg. And you do. You don't. It doesn't stick. You know what I mean? Like, you don't leave the movie thinking, oh, Mark Zuckerberg's a nice guy. Like, you know he's not a good dude. But the performances are just fantastic. Armie Hammer as the Winklevoss twins, like, that's killer stuff that he did. Mm-hmm. And I've seen his stuff since then, and he peaked. And if you gotta peak with Fincher. I've always said that.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's just this dirty feeling sometimes that you have about what the internet is capable of doing to individual people, right? Like, it can really tear a person down by having your private world exposed. Mm-hmm. And some of the scenes in The Social Network give you that feeling. Like when he's doing the comparing female faces, the very opening scene, which has that great Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross cover song to it. It makes you feel that way when all the women are like, you're disgusting, you're gross, and the men are like, yeah, whoa, that's toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. It's more present in The Social Network than it is in Fight Club, if you ask me. But it's comparable to all of his films because all of his films make you feel a little dirty for the most part. They make you feel like you're viewing a really dark, gross side of humanity. And The Social Network manages
real side?
Like the real. Well, I don't know. I'm still a little optimistic. You know what I mean? I think
because I feel like on social media we show people what we want. Like we show people the bright side, but in real life, I think that's what it is, and I think that's what Fincher brought to The Social Network for me. So I have a question for the two of you. Do you think this is Jesse Eisenberg's best performance?
I do, actually,
because I was worried about his casting because we were just going to get the Jesse Eisenberg isms, but he's actually really good as Zuckerberg.
You see Zombieland and you're expecting that in a movie with David Fincher, and we got something completely different.
His performance is so subtle. You know what I mean? And it's so good. And the way the lines get thrown around, especially, what was it? We were watching it together and you pointed out the scene where his friend, Eduardo, which I think might be Andrew Garfield's best performance, really, because he's amazing in the film as well.
He's great in Silence and Hacksaw Ridge, but definitely up there for sure.
He is really good in Hacksaw Ridge as well. I will give you that. When he gets 2 beers out of the fridge and opens them and then goes to hand one to Jesse Eisenberg and he's already getting one out, like, Eisenberg found these little moments throughout the film to, like, keep embellishing who Zuckerberg is, and it's fascinating to watch. I think the movie's also very funny.
Yeah.
Like, like Fincher to me is not funny. I think he's very funny to many people, but I don't really find his stuff that humorous.
Yeah.
Social Network makes me laugh out loud.
Yeah, he kept finding these moments like you were talking about where it's almost reinforcing he's not really aware of things that are happening around him or the people that he's affecting with his decisions. He's motivated by a few goals, like Final Club first, and then this Facebook thing, which may or may not have been stolen outright from the Winklevoss.
I feel that it was. That was where I got to at the end of the movie. I feel like it was.
He kind of lets you make your own call as to... I mean, basically, the way it boils down, he doesn't see what he took as theft because none of their code was, but they were saying, but it's the whole idea, it's intellectual property, and he doesn't see it that way. So it's kind of like he lets you make your own call,
which I think is so smart of how Fincher laid out all of the facts. And even though the movie is basically, I would say, from the point of view of Zuckerberg, it's from the point of view of everyone as well. Like, you definitely walk away with the Winklevoss twins point of view. You for sure walk away with Eduardo's point of view. I think him getting that performance out of Justin Timberlake means that he is a great director.
Yes.
Because Justin Timberlake is not a good actor. No one is running out trying to watch The Love Guru at night.
Trouble with the Curve?
Yeah, oh my God. Trouble with the Curve, Love Guru, Alpha Dog. Like, stop it. Stop it.
Wasn't he in a Bad Teacher, too?
He was in Bad Teacher. Yeah, that's back when he was humping on Cameron Diaz.
Simpatico, erotico.
I mean,
like,
just
what
not
are you
good.
doing?
It's not good. Stop it. He needs to be cast as a mute.
Like Ruby Rose and
John Wick 2.
It's pretty good in Trolls, you know.
Because
Right.
I guess he was good in Trolls. But I mean, I do think overall, I did a little sort of questionnaire at work and started walking up to my coworkers and just being like, "Hey, do you know who David Fincher is?" And some people would be like, "Yeah, he did Fight Club," and some people would be like, "No," and I'd be like, "Oh, he did Fight Club." And I was constantly surprised at how many people said, "I've never seen The Social Network. It looked boring."
Oh,
because that was me. You know what I mean? That was me before I saw it. And I've tried to tell them, like, you need to see it. I think when you go into a movie expecting it to not be good and then it's fantastic, it elevates it even higher than it might have been if you had gone in with an open mind. I never go into anything with an open mind. So I'm always... I'm always shocked and surprised with what I'm walking out of, feeling. And I am, I really enjoy The Social Network. I knew it was definitely in my top 3 before I started watching them. I actually thought about Fight Club being the honorable mention. I think Fight Club's a great movie. I think its themes are pretty on point, even for now, if you really watch it. But it, to me, is not in the top 2.
Social Network for me is a little bit lower down on my list. So
really?
I was kind of surprised.
James, you don't like to laugh. That's, I think, the biggest problem.
I do like to laugh. I saw Hobbs and Shaw. I love laughing.
You love laughing.
So, Nate, I'm going to kick it back to you, and I want you to give me your pick for best Fincher movie.
All right. Well, we're going to keep on the theme here. Because I am going to say, and I want to give some reasons, because for the people listening to the podcast, they're like, so what? He likes Fight Club second. This has been like 15 years that Fight Club has been my favorite movie. So as of basically yesterday and today, best Fincher movie for me is The Social Network.
Oh, sick. Okay.
These are my 1 and 2 favorite movies of all time, Fight Club and Social Network.
So your favorite movie of all time is Fight Club. Your second is The Social Network.
Yeah.
But your favorite, you think I'm
going to say
Fincher.
the best work from David Fincher is this movie. And there's a few reasons. So I like the story of Fight Club, kind of the behind the camera story where there was a lot of disagreement between him and Fox about how it was going to be promoted. And and essentially it was kind of a failure in theaters, and then there was a cult following that gave it a resurgence on DVD, which I like to think, and I don't know how contracts work, but I like to think that David Fincher got more from DVD sales than he might have, and maybe the studio got more from theater. I don't know, but if you know different, then don't tell me, because I like to think that David Fincher won that eventually.
Like you said, man, it's all about contracts.
Yeah, exactly. Get the points on the back end. So anyway, Social Network is my pick for best, because I think it's the most complete. Like obviously the script by Sorkin, the direction by Fincher, all the performances, the music. This was by the time he started partnering with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. And the music, I mean, the music won an Oscar. Like the music is ridiculous in that movie. Just everything is perfect. So yeah, again, the kind of themes of a very imperfect, flawed person that it kind of gives you catharsis, where you can see, oh yeah, man, those are some things I might want to avoid, when you see them making little choices like that. But the project as a whole, I think, I'm kind of mad now that it didn't win Best Picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I can't remember what did that year. I guess it would have been 2011.
Yeah, I can't remember what won that year. I'll have to look it up, but
yeah, that's my pick. It's a weird roller coaster for me switching those two up, but I
feel like you've really you changed your heart almost.
I think it's a coming of age again. I think that the Social Network is the adult David Fincher.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it is. You can look at it as the adult version of Fight Club.
Maybe, yeah.
Or you can't. I don't know.
Both are a huge part of my life. Both movies.
The King's Speech won the Best Picture Oscar that year.
Right.
I don't believe that it was better than The Social Network. To be honest,
I don't think it was either.
Yeah.
That one was made for Oscars.
But he got over having a stutter, and that is that's something.
Yeah.
Good.
Made a speech.
Yeah. So my pick for best, I don't know if you were done.
Yeah. Take it away.
So my pick for best is going to be Seven.
Okay.
I think this is Fincher's best made film. I think the editing is incredible. I think he pulled a great performance out of Brad Pitt. I think he did a great job with Morgan Freeman, with Kevin Spacey, who, besides what happens in his personal life, I think is an incredible actor, and I think he is amazing in absolutely everything that he does.
He had a lot of darkness to pull from that role.
Yes.
Yeah. We found out later.
Yeah.
Wasn't all fiction.
Yeah. And I think that character is just amazing, and I love it when the bad guy wins. So, I mean, I think that it's something that is just, it's awesome. I love being in his house and you see all of the notes that he's writing in his books, the books that he reads. This is a guy, we find out at the end of the film that his sin is envy. And he envies that normal life that he will never have, that he never sees in himself. And I think is the catalyst for what starts all of this. He knows that he'll never have that in the end. So I am going to go through all of this. You know what I mean? And Fincher doesn't pull anything back. The sloth, that guy sitting in that bed for God knows how long. You know what I mean? The guy that he forces to eat until he literally kills himself. The lust. It is all just...
That is a dildo with a knife on it, and I will never be the same.
Yeah, it is all fucked up, but he doesn't pull his punches, and I respect directors that do that. Recently, Midsommar, Hereditary, those are films that don't pull away. There are scenes where every other movie, every other filmmaker will pull away at this moment. He will not do that, and I think Fincher is one of those people, and that's something that I deeply appreciate about him and as this film goes, and I think it is the best work he has ever done. Lola, I pass it on to you. What's your pick for best?
I agree with you. My pick for best is Seven. I don't want to watch this film. I think this film is just absolutely depressing and horrifying and terrible to watch, but it is a amazing achievement in filmmaking. Again, I saw it when I was 11, so I've had some time to think about about this. It is, to this day, one of the most atmospheric films I have ever seen. I I think the city in Seven becomes a character of itself.
For sure.
And that's kind of hard to pull off. But this is where we get, like, Fincher's color palette is very much the colors of bile. You know what I mean? It's yellows, it's greens, it's grays, it's browns. He does have a lot of the color black in this film. But the whole city, it's always raining, it's always dirty. Every crime scene they go into is just like decrepit and awful. The city feels grimy. The city feels like a sin itself.
Exactly.
And it's, I don't know that I've ever felt that intensely with another movie. And I also love the juxtaposition of Freeman and Pitt's characters. I mean, like, from the jump, Pitt's character, Mills, I believe is his character's name, is a child. He is a baby man who is a detective. I mean, he's married his high school sweetheart. He's moved her to the city. She's not enjoying it, but he doesn't even seem to really care or notice.
Yeah, because he wants to be this hotshot cop.
He wants to be a hotshot,
yeah.
you know? Like, he's constantly losing his temper. He's doing the wrong thing. I actually... I read somewhere that he's another director that I love, but we're not talking about him. Fincher made the decision to have Brad Pitt's character in ill-fitting clothes to show that he was a child in a man's world. Like, his oversized shirt and his suit doesn't fit. He wanted to give that illusion of this is someone who hasn't grown into the best version of himself.
I didn't see that. I just thought it was like the style of the time. That's a really good
If you
really
rewatch it too, you can see like he's constantly playing and shifting his shirt around, like his button-ups, because he doesn't fit in his clothing, because he's essentially just a child. And Freeman's character, I believe, is Somerset. There are so many parallels between Somerset and the serial killer, John Doe. They both hate the apathy of the city. They both want people to do more. They've both given up on the humans around them. And Somerset wants to get the hell out of Dodge. He wants to retire. He wants to get away. Doe decides to murder them and shove their sin in their face. And at the end of the movie, they are really at odds. Like, it is really Somerset versus Doe, and Mills is in the middle. And that ending, man, I mean, you get chills, because I don't think we've ever seen an ending that good on a movie. I mean, the idea
it's
that
up there for sure.
Mills cannot win in that moment, because, you know, Doe is like, I'm Envy, Mills, you're Wrath. I remember being 11 and thinking if he didn't shoot him, he would have won. But there was no way that Mills wasn't going to shoot the man that just cut off the head of his pregnant wife and shipped it to him in a box. Like, there was no way. Like, Doe is one of the smartest serial killers on the face of the planet. Also, him sneaking around as the photographer and getting in and out of his life. And I do feel like as horrifying as the movie is, it is just beautifully and epically made. I will disagree with you on one point. I think Fincher does pull back in the film, because he never shows Doe doing anything to people. He only shows what happens when he leaves.
I like the mystery of that, though.
I do too. I feel like in the 90s, serial killer movies were all over the place. Y'all remember that movie with Angelina Jolie and Ethan Hawke, and she actually gets pregnant with his twins, but he was a serial killer?
I don't remember.
It was super popular at the time. Serial killers were kind of the du jour at the box office, and they always showed them. They always showed them doing the killings. Fincher never showed you what it looked like. He never showed you how Doe got into the houses, how he kept these people, how he attacked them. He just showed you the aftermath.
So I like that, because I like making that stuff up in my mind.
Yeah, what your brain does is way worse.
Yeah, because I mean, think about it like this. Like, why did like Jaws work so well? Why did Alien work so well? Because they hid the creature. So your mind had to make up everything else around it. Nate, what were you going to say?
I was just that's one of the fundamental things of like a horror suspense movie is what you can't see or what you don't see is scarier than what you do see. Even with the best CGI that we have now, darkness and what you don't see or know is scarier. And I think in Seven, he was also giving us the opportunity to play the part of the cops who are always one step behind.
Yes, I think that too. Which is awesome.
Stylistic as well, too.
I don't want to see the movie.
Yeah.
I want to watch clips of my favorite parts of the movie. I want to fast forward through chunks of the movie. The movie's not a feel-good movie. I like the idea that he had been burned on his first film so badly that he was willing to fight the studio for that head in a box scene. It kind of makes me sad that what's in the box has been memed as hard as it has been. Because
I was watching some interviews with Brad Pitt, and he says that's one of the biggest things that people just walk up to him and say, "What's in the box?"
I will say, too, that scene... watching it and kind of listening to commentary on it, Fincher shot it with a shaky cam on Brad Pitt and a steady cam on Doe to show that Doe was in control and Brad Pitt wasn't. And I just think that's like this piece of brilliance. You know what I mean? Like, a director shoots a scene and gets it right. So a director like Fincher thinks about using different cameras to shoot a scene to get it perfect. And so as much as I actually kind of hate the movie Seven and what it has turned me into as a person, I think it is his best work.
Yeah. Before we get into the worst stuff, I do want to talk about a few fun facts that I found out about Fincher. But Lola, did you have something?
I had one fun fact about Seven.
Okay, yeah, hit me.
So there is a library in the movie Seven, and it's full of these like green lamps. You may kind of see like Freeman walks through it. It was used as a big still for the film. It was also used as the bank from The Mask.
Seriously?
What?
So that's a little Mask and Fincher mix for you guys.
Okay. Yeah,
they both like the same locations.
Smoking.
Yeah.
I would like to review that movie one day.
I don't. I'm going to send you Nate. I don't like The Mask. I just think it just...
So what you're saying is the three of us have to do The Mask.
Oh, my God.
That's what it sounds like to me. So I did not know that Fincher was up to direct The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
I also did not know that he was up to direct Hannibal. He was also up to direct Batman Begins, Catch Me If You Can, the very first Spider-Man movie, Mission Impossible 3. Like, it's crazy.
That would have been a different movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how many movies he was up for. The one that really speaks to me is... he was going to direct 8mm, but that was the year that he did Fight Club. So I'm glad that he left that.
Yeah.
But
I can see him doing 8mm, though. That movie is so dark and twisted and just leaves that bad taste in your mouth. And if he'd have done it, it might have even been it would have been a better movie.
Yeah. I want to see the Batman Begins directed by Fincher.
Yeah.
Well, Batman is already so depressive.
I don't
Fincher.
I don't want to trade Nolan, but that would be a great movie.
Yeah. I want to see some what if universe.
I think it shows where they were.
Multiverse.
I think it shows where the studio was in their mindset about needing something really new for Batman, that they would go to Fincher. The list of started and stopped Fincher projects is out of control.
Yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff. When you look through his trivia on IMDb, there's just a lot of interesting stuff in there. So, Nate, I'm going to kick it to you. What is your pick for dishonorable mention?
Okay, for dishonorable mention, for David Fincher, I'm going to go with Panic Room. So, the reason behind that choice is just of all the films here, I feel like Panic Room is one of the least remarkable. Everyone on this list has just like, oh my God, this moment, or just crazy things, both in the writing and the direction of it, that are really cool. Panic Room, it's fine. It's just a really high bar for this work for me. So Panic Room is Home Alone grown up. Like, they even make a reference in the movie to Home Alone. He said, this Joe Pesci guy over here. And so, like, it's fine. The suspense is fine, but it's really just an unremarkable film from David Fincher. So there's not even a whole lot bad I have to say about it, except it's one of those ones where David Fincher loves using CGI in moments that don't need CGI. So, like, in Panic Room, he actually like flies through the kitchen, across the island, under the vent hood to get to the back door where the criminals are breaking in, and no reason to do that, really. Or, I mean, you could have done something else that would have been the same feel to it. He likes these tricky little things, and I think in this movie he does a thing where somebody's trying to break through a wall, and he zooms in on the most microscopic level of concrete that's like crumbling away. Just little weird things like that take me out of things a little bit, rather than most of the time when he does something like that, like the opening of Fight Club where you're going through the human body to come out of the gun. That's great. That's a great use of that kind of technology, and I think he grew into that a little bit, but it took me away. Good performance from Kristen Stewart.
Yeah,
though.
baby
Yes.
Kristen Stewart killing it in that movie.
Yeah.
Also, the only film by Fincher my mom says is any good.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Well, and that's probably
This is the woman who let me watch Seven when I was 11. So,
that's the thing. It's a straightforward movie for mass audiences that doesn't have like any.
did you just call my mother mass audiences?
I'm saying it has a wide range of appeal. No, that's not any better.
Okay, on that. No, I'm playing. No, you're very right. It's just very.
I love your mom. I think
Great.
she's a beautiful woman.
Thank you so much. You hitting on my mom right now?
No. Anyway, detour. But no, I like it fine. It's just, that's all I can say. And everything else kind of has something just crazy cool as far as the plot. I think the plot's a little weak. You know, it's a real estate deal gone bad.
Right.
And at the end, they're looking for a new house. And so
It's Home Alone. It's a real estate deal gone bad. It's everybody's Thursday.
yeah.
So I also have to pick Panic Room as my dishonorable mention. I don't have anything bad to say about this movie. I actually enjoy it. I think it's fine. It's not a movie I'm going to watch every couple of years, but I mean, if I'm binging Fincher, I'll throw it on. Yeah. But it's just fine.
Yeah.
It's just okay, and I chose it as my dishonorable mention because I think every other film besides my worst pick is just phenomenal. Like, I think Fincher is just a visionary director, and this movie just isn't it. Like, there's none of his real creative style, in my opinion, compared to the other films. But that's why I had to pick it as my dishonorable mention. I feel like if I say anything else, it'll just be nitpicking because I think the movie's fine. But that's why it had to be my pick. Lola, I'm curious to find out what's your dishonorable mention.
Well, I would watch Panic Room any day of the week over The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Really? Seriously?
I did not enjoy this film. What a terrible movie this was.
This was a moment we had because we watched this together, and I like this movie, but Laura does not.
I do not like this film. I don't enjoy it. I don't think it's any good.
What?
I think it is a visually stunning film with no heart.
What?
The performances are good-ish. There is no character development.
The accents are good, right?
The accents are awful. Do not come to me about these accents. Now,
from New Orleans, like, it's going to be hard to please.
From New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'm not from 1918 New Orleans, so, I mean, I'll give them a little bit of a buffer there. Something that I love about David Fincher is his attention to character detail and the way that he brings characters out. I mean, if you watch Zodiac, it's a long movie, but you feel like you really know the characters in that film.
Oh, yeah, you're along the journey
You
with
are
them.
with them. You are in that together with them. I don't feel like I got that in The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons.
Wow.
Benjamin is a deeply flawed human being. He leaves his own child for no apparent reason because it takes him like 20 more years to get to the point where he wouldn't have been able to help her.
Well, according to him, it would be better
according to him because
if he left
sucks.
now so the child wouldn't even know he existed.
Cool.
So that he doesn't form
That's
that
great.
bond
Yeah.
when he just
You're a runaway
dies as a
father.
baby.
You're a terrible person. Like, he sucks. Like, Benjamin Buttons is not a character that I like. I would have liked to have known more about Cate Blanchett's character, Daisy. Mm-hmm. There's no character development on her. You know she was a ballerina. You don't know why she wanted to be a ballerina. You don't know why she ran away. You don't know why. You don't know the answers to any questions. The CGI on that baby is terrible. Baby old man Brad Pitt will haunt my nightmares. You know what I'm not seeing when I close my eyes? The lust scene from Seven. You know what I am seeing? Old man baby Brad Pitt trying to mack on a 7-year-old girl under a sheet with a flashlight. That's what I'm having horrified visions about. every Brad Pitt's voice, the entire film, terrible. I was offended by the fact that he set the present day stuff on the eve of Katrina's landfall. That was unnecessary. It didn't do anything for the movie. If you really think about the movie, like, them in a hotel room is not what I meant. Them in a hospital room having that conversation. Julia Ormond, who's older than Cate Blanchett, but time and age don't matter in the Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons. Having her find out who her father was and that whole story, and then having Cate Blanchett pass away is powerful enough without being set on the night of a hurricane that decimated a city and took hundreds of lives. And I don't know why Fincher made that decision, because the movie's not well thought out.
I mean, it could have been a studio note. It's like, we want to draw reference to something that actually happened in real life.
I don't think Fincher would have allowed a studio note like that.
Okay. I mean, at this point in his career, I can see that for sure.
It's 2008.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of, again, like, it's a long movie. It's like, what, 2 hours and 48 minutes long. Thanks for pulling that up for me, James. And it feels every minute of it.
Yeah.
And at the end of that movie, you don't know who his adoptive mother was. You don't know who Marshala was in the movie, because he plays her boyfriend. You don't even know if they was her husband. He is adopted by Henson. What's her first name?
I can't remember.
Taraji P. Henson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Queenie.
Queenie is her character's name, which I'm not... I mean, Queenie has her own child eventually in the film. You never meet this person. She's never a character. Benjamin has no relationship with his, adoptive sister. There's this theme in the movie where when he's born looking like a crazy old man and his mother dies in childbirth, his father abandons him, and then his dad comes back in his life later, and it's very, like, nothing. It's very anticlimactic. Benjamin's like, yeah, well, I forgave him, and then I moved on.
So how do you feel about Forrest Gump?
I love Forrest Gump. I was literally about to say, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is Forrest Gump done incorrectly.
Because I feel like, besides Forrest, how many other people do you really get that much character from?
I feel like you really get
his
a lot
friend.
Well, and I will say, you don't
with.
know Benjamin Button as well as you know Forrest.
That's true.
And you know Robin Wright better than you know Cate Blanchett at the end of that movie.
That's fair.
I just was shocked by how bad it was. Although my first note is I don't even want to watch this. So I didn't go in with high hopes. Okay, guys? And I, again, I always ask around my friends who are my coworkers and probably don't assume that they're my friends. And they were all like, Benjamin Button is the worst movie I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay.
And so, again, I don't think it's a good film. I just don't think Fincher put his heart into it. I think Fincher sometimes gets so wrapped up in visual effects that he gets a little confused. And like you said with Panic Room, like, we didn't need those visual effects, but Fincher was like, I'm killing it right now. I'm going to do this. And it wasn't necessary. Panic Room is still a good movie. I think he was so invested in the visual effects and the visual storyboard of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, he forgot that there were people in it that the audience needed to make a connection with.
I definitely see that perspective for sure. Now, I do have a question for both of you guys. How do you feel about him pretty much being an old baby, growing into a young man, but then getting small to a baby again? Like, how do you feel about that transformation?
Do you mean scientifically? Not good.
Yes,
I don't feel like that's how things happen.
I would see him as just everything hormonally and a bunch of stuff. Like, maybe he loses facial hair, he loses the thing that would eventually make you a man, quote unquote, and then he just dies. Like, what do you think?
I couldn't buy into it at all from a scientific perspective.
Because your bones won't shrink back like this. And I know it's a curious case, but...
Yeah, it's a curious case, and it's like a clock is going backwards. Like, what the shit was all that? It was so dumb. I didn't like it at all. And also, Cate Blanchett was abandoned by this man for, I again state, no good reason, because by the time he came back and his kid was 12, he looked like he could still legally drive a car. He was 22 years old. And she winds up taking care of him. And, like, he should have trusted her to do that for him the whole time.
Which was the reason he left, was so she wouldn't have
to take care of him. Like, he literally says, you can't raise us both, so I'm going to go. When he comes back and the daughter is 12 years old, he's 20. You don't raise a 20-year-old. Especially not a 20-year-old with a 80-year-old's mind.
How do you explain that to the kid, though?
Everyone else in the movie accepted it. Every single other character in the movie. Like, I'm just saying, like, he didn't think anything through. He was just like, we're going to take a tugboat to war. Like, none of it made sense to me. It's the only one that I had to pay money to see. So I'm butthurt about that. I'm going to tell you that right now. I could have had an iced coffee instead I had this shit. And, you know, I think the de-aging effects that he did on Cate Blanchett in the beginning of the movie really stole a lot of the emotion from her performance. Because she just looked like she was photoshopped the whole movie. And she's a beautiful woman, quit.
Yeah, I mean, it's 11 years ago. I mean, what are you going to do?
That's what I think. I think if it were done now and they spent more time on pulling those character performances it might have been a really good movie. But I just don't think it was. And I would rather watch Panic Room. You know what I mean? Jared Leto's cornrows in that film just kill it for me. Just kill it.
Think about Panic Room. The three criminals are Jared Leto, Forrest Whitaker, and Dwight Yoakam. Mm-hmm. Like,
we don't talk about Dwight Yoakam enough.
I mean,
know what
he's
Raoul. Yeah, no. Did not like Curious Case of Benjamin Button's Come At Me.
Okay, all right. So Nate, what's your pick for worst?
Shouldn't we just all say it at the same time?
We could. Well, my pick for worst film by David Fincher is Alien 3.
Yep.
It sucks too.
So bad, so bad.
And here's the thing. Thanks for letting me go first, so that I can steal all the things that you were going to say. Is that, you know, there was just a complete disaster in the making of the film. With, you know, starting and stopping, several different directors, and nobody really wanting to be involved. Also, Fox had, with Alien 1 and 2, had these commercial successes where they never expected it. This is some monster movie, you know, it was low budget, and then they were like, oh, well, now we need to make this huge sequel to Aliens. And David Fincher wandered in, a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young director, and probably thought it was the biggest break of his life.
It should have been.
And it was. I mean, at the moment. But not just that, but, like, scanning through it, like, some of the shots that he picks are like, you're in a prison scene and there's a bunch of prisoners, and the shots are like, I feel like he drew from a lot. So he used to be mostly music videos and commercials back in the day for propaganda films, and it was a very kind of like music video kind of shot, and it was just like super down angle. And you're seeing the under chin of this prisoner, and you're like, what am I looking at here?
I love under chin shots.
Yeah, I mean, those are the most flattering.
They are. If when you take photos of me, don't I always ask you to get it from the chin up?
From a down angle.
Yeah.
So,
he's got to lay on the ground to take these photos. Yeah. He's a real Instagram fiance.
Yeah, I do my best. But so that, just tons of problems, and obviously Fincher has basically completely disowned it as his work. And it was crazy because he quit, and like before the editing happened. And it's interesting. I wonder, obviously he didn't want to take his name off it necessarily, but I don't even know if he could at that point, because he directed all the shooting, but then the editing was just whoever wanted it, I guess. But yeah, that's my pick. It wasn't good.
Yeah, that's going to be my pick too. Yeah. I thought all three of us were going to pick Alien 3. I can't believe you would prefer to watch Alien 3 over The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons.
That's my dishonorable mention.
Yeah.
Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons is my dishonorable mention.
My bad. I'm skipping ahead.
Alien 3 is the worst film that he did.
I'm skipping ahead. I apologize. But yeah, Alien 3
Now I do consider Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons to be next to Alien 3.
But like you said, Nate, it was just plagued with problems. It sucks that this is technically his first movie. It really does suck. Like you said, he quit, and the studio just went in there and they just edited it together and made I can't even call it a movie. It's
Camel.
It's just terrible. You know what I mean? And you mentioned these weird like down angles. He tries to do the POV shots that Ridley Scott did in the first film, trying to get that perspective of the xenomorph, and it just doesn't work. The angles are weird, and it's not his fault, but the editing of this film is terrible. And the worst thing you could have done, you kill off Newt and you kill off Michael Bihn's character. What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck, man?
These are the coolest characters in Aliens.
I'm so mad about it.
In Aliens, and I mean, at this point, we can all talk about it since it's our worst.
Yeah, it's the absolute worst film.
It's absolutely ridiculous. How do you start off the film saying that, oh yeah, Newt had a chest burster in her chest and she's fucking dead?
When you went through the first two films so invested in making sure Newt got out. Like, in the first movie, first and second movie, I don't even really care if she got out, like Sigourney Weaver got out. I wanted to make sure Newt was safe. You know what I mean? Like, this child who'd been put in this terrible position. Michael Biehn, what an actor. That guy. Still my favorite. Still my John Connor. You know what I mean? And then to just kill them off like that at the beginning of Alien 3. Huh?
Your Kyle Reese.
I'm Kyle Reese. My Kyle Reese, that's what I meant. John Connor is Jai Courtney, who's my other one. So good in Genesis. So good in it. Yeah, so good. We talked about that, I think, a lot once.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it was really good. The script is just trash. The Alien 3 script is trash. Like, trash.
The guy that wrote most of it accidentally on a flight from Australia, and they took it from a planet of monks to, let's make it a prison because we want prisoners versus xenomorphs. Because we want to
we want to have her threatened by a rape scene in the middle of her running away from xenomorphs.
I'm like, is that necessary?
Was insulting.
Is that really necessary?
No, her sexual relationship with the criminal on the planet, like, also unnecessary. Like, it was all just bad.
I feel like in concept it could be a good idea, because after Aliens, I think it was the right decision to kind of scale back just a little bit to find that foundation again. Having it take place into a prison, it gives you that feel of claustrophobia. Like, I can't escape. I'm stuck in this prison. Xenomorphs are back. After everything that I've escaped, I'm still stuck in this hell. So for me, as far as a concept goes, I think it's a great idea. And then that's kind of what pisses me off the most about the execution of the film, because it's just trash. And then Ripley's sacrifice at the end, where we get the chest burster coming out of her chest and she falls into this lava. It should be this great moment for this hero, and it's just not. I'm like, well, I don't really care.
A T2 moment.
Exactly.
Like, that's what that should have been.
Well, and the lava fire shit that she jumps into is so fake looking.
Oh my God,
the
it looks
scene
like
is just crap.
Shit.
I mean, it's just, and it's not bad for the time. It's just bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's not bad because it was whatever year it was made.
So
it's just
I actually
crap.
think it's still bad for the time, because T2 told us you don't have to use CGI.
Yeah.
It could just be a giant pool with like food coloring and all the other stuff that they did in T2 for the lava, and then you use CGI to make it look more like lava.
And they cut to a little Oscar statue falling into the lava.
Yeah.
It's not even close to looking like
Fincher didn't even direct that scene. That was a reshoot after he had quit. You know what I mean? I laughed earlier when you were like, what made the original Alien, what made Jaws so scary is you don't see them. There's way too many skittering xenomorphs in Alien 3. They're running around. They look like a mix between my cat and a velociraptor. Like, they're not scary. They run into doors at one point as if they got confused as to where they are. It's just, the film is really, really bad. If I would rather watch Alien 4 Resurrection, then you've made a terrible film.
Agreed. Agreed.
Can you imagine you're a up and coming director, and you're like, yeah, you're going to direct the third of a sequence of movies. The first two were directed by Ridley Scott and James Cameron. You're up. Like, that would be rough. But
I also thought it was crazy that Rennie Harlin, the king of Cutthroat Island, do y'all remember that movie?
Yeah.
Like, that he was not only the original director, but that he had actually written the script that would then become Prometheus.
I did not know that.
So Rennie Harlin's vision for Alien 3 is that Sigourney Weaver would take the fight, that Ripley would take the fight to the aliens themselves, instead of letting them go to Earth, and that they would land on the alien home planet, and she and Michael Biehn's character would fight it there.
Which is a logical place for a third of a trilogy, right?
Absolutely. And that's why the original teaser trailers for Alien 3 showed Earth in the background.
Yeah.
Is because it was supposed to be Ripley and Michael Biehn's, I can't remember his character's names, last stand against...
Was he Hudson or was that Hicks?
He was Hicks.
I always mix them up, him and Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, yeah.
I grew up with such a crush on that man. Not Bill Paxton. Sorry. But Michael Biehn.
Yeah.
Just so good looking. Just, obviously. You look like him.
Who?
You look a little bit like Michael Biehn, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, take it.
With a beard?
I'm
I've seen him scruffy, you know what I'm saying? You don't come through the future clean shaven. No, I mean, Alien 3 is just crap. It's funny, when we were going to do Fincher, I was like, should we just take Alien 3 off the table? Because finding 2 bad Fincher movies outside of Alien 3 is difficult. Finding 2. I think finding 1 is really easy, and that 1 is Benjamin Button. But...
I have to be honest with you, now that I think about it, if we removed Alien 3, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button would have been my dishonorable mention.
There we go. You know what I'm saying? But
I had to talk about Alien 3. This movie is just a mess.
It's just a mess. It's everything that's wrong with when a studio gets involved.
Yeah. I mean, technically it wasn't a complete failure.
It made money.
It made at least, I would say, because it cost $50 million to make, let's say they spent... Because back then in 92, let's say they spent $10 million on marketing, they still technically made over $90 million in profit. So it's not the worst thing. It's not what they wanted after Aliens and after the first Alien, but I mean, it wasn't a total loss.
I think it made money and people felt terrible about where Alien franchise was at. So
and then they made Alien Resurrection. They didn't make it any better.
Yeah.
Well, the 4th movie is the one with all her clones, right?
Yes.
And then kill me.
Who do I have to fuck to get off this ship? I'm like, yep, that's definitely the Ripley character.
That's exactly how Ripley would act.
Definitely her.
With her dark goth nail polish. All right. Winona Ryder. Get out of here, Winona Ryder. No, I mean, I'm thankful for Prometheus and Alien Covenant because they brought it back. And you think in 92, if they would have done that, how cool the whole series would have been. It's like we took a detour to Shittown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to review the Alien franchise because I'm not a fan of Covenant. I like
Prometheus much better.
I like Michael Fassbender in it, but that's where it stops. I think besides Fassbender and the cinematography, and it's included with Fassbender because he created the xenomorph. Besides all of that stuff, I think the rest of it is a generic ripoff of Alien. I really think there's not much substance to Covenant.
Now, Noomi Rapace is in Prometheus, and
yes.
that's the scene where she removes the xenomorph from her chest on herself. Mm-hmm. That movie I love. Mm-hmm. Covenant, I agree with you. It's not, there's nothing special about Alien Covenant. It was actually kind of boring to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good on the first watch, but when you see it the second and third time, I'm like, I don't see the point. Now, we didn't talk about Gone Girl or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Where do those films kind of rank in your Fincher, rankings?
I would say that Gone Girl is much higher than The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Same. What about you, Nate?
Same. I actually have my list right in front of me.
Oh, hit us with it, yeah.
Okay, reverse order. Number 10, Alien 3. 9, Panic Room. 8, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. 7, Benjamin Button. 6, Gone Girl. Zodiac, The Game. 7, Fight Club, The Social Network.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong list.
Very, very close to mine, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he felt the need to do The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
I liked it a lot.
As someone who read the book, I feel like he brought the pages of the book to the screen, which is something he's really good at. And
I didn't think he pulled any punches in that movie.
No, he actually showed more than I think was necessary, which is something that I found problematic about the film.
Okay.
So, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Fincher came out in 2011. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Swedish film that starred Noomi Rapace, came out in 2009. I prefer the Swedish version.
I do as well.
I think it's much better, and I wonder why he thought he needed to reboot it 2 years later. To me, that just doesn't seem like a great decision.
Well, that's the thing, right? Executive producer is like, oh, I want to do this, and then you get the people to cast, so he just took the job, you know what I mean? So
I think that is a problem that I have with Fincher, is that I think that he just takes the job a lot.
Okay.
And the passion that he had for Zodiac, because I've read a lot of articles, a lot of interviews with him about Zodiac, and he was actually raised in California when the Zodiac was threatening school buses. So to him, Zodiac is like his autobiography. And I feel connected to that because Seven is like my autobiography because I saw it when I was 11 years old. You know what I'm saying? But he did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I feel, because he wanted to make a movie that got a lot of eyes on it. And I think Fincher...
If that was the case, I think he would have done Spider-Man in 2002.
But
if he just wanted the eyes.
I think if you look into that, he didn't say no to Spider-Man. They ultimately went in a different direction.
That's true.
Like
they chose Raimi.
He didn't choose to not do that. I think Fincher is extremely talented. I think he makes a lot of great movies. I think where he trips over his own feet is when he makes decisions more based on how many eyes in a theater he can get versus if he feels connected to the film. Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, it just wasn't stellar.
I definitely see what you're saying. I think also with Benjamin Button, with the things that we figured out that we didn't like, I think he was just trying to get an Oscar, honestly. And so when those kind of motivations, as we look at the list, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is just like, yeah, the movie was just made. The book barely just came out before that. Yeah. And maybe just a paycheck. I mean, you know, you got to work.
Yeah.
I think too, like
Gyllenhaal in Far From Home. He's not interested in the MCU.
He doesn't want to be. He
likes
that
indies, just like Benedict. He likes indie movies, but this stuff gets your name out there and it pays for it.
Yeah. It's everything that George Clooney meant when he said, "Yeah, I did the Batman movie because sometimes you want to buy a house on Lake Como."
Yeah,
which was his exact comment about that film. You know what I mean? But Gone Girl is to me an amazing film.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it's much higher on my list. I remember you saw it without me, and your exact comment was what?
I said that I felt physically ill. I mean,
and that to me sums up Gone Girl. And it's a good director that can make you feel physically ill with just a psychological manipulation like that movie was.
Yeah, it's that movie, among a few others. He seems to like to focus on male characters that have some pretty deep-seated problems with women, because there are a few comments that Ben Affleck drops about, you know, just like a woman, you know, trying to manipulate me and blah, blah, blah. I'll play the perfect husband, which is the... And it's interesting to see those little details come out. But yeah, Gone Girl is very well done. And I think he's a big reader, and I think he comes across these stories that are just so psychologically bending, and he's able to perfectly deliver those to the screen. So
he's the perfect director for bringing a book to the screen because he sees it in his head. You know what I mean? Like, and he can give it to you. Like, having read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, having read Gone Girl, like you see it that way when you're reading the books, and then he sees it that way and brings it, but then he also adds in his stuff, you know what I mean, his color palette, his way to do it. I think it's very clear why he is, and he does so many books, he does so many movies based on books. The literary phase of Fincher, if you will.
Yeah. So what's your ranking if you had to rank all the films?
It would be Alien 3, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Panic Room, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Fight Club, Zodiac, Gone Girl, Social Network, Seven. I missed one. Which one did I miss? The Game.
The Game.
Yeah, The Game is...
The Game's right in the middle
awesome
for me.
Movie.
It would be right below Fight Club. The Game was... it's still a really good film.
Yeah, I think I would have to go Alien 3, Panic Room, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Then I would have to go The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, The Game, Fight Club, Seven.
Why is it that The Social Network is so far down your list?
Because I just love the other films more.
Yeah.
Like, Zodiac is really long, but I love slow burns, and I feel like it's a legit exploration into what this investigation was all about. I think it's just amazing.
And also based on a really good book.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's crazy that he brings so many books to the screen and you don't really notice it as a theme until you do, and then you're like, this is how his mind works. You know what I mean? His mind works in pictures based off of words. It's awesome.
Yeah. So before we wrap up here, I would love to hear your final thoughts on director David Fincher.
Me first? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're the special guest, man.
You're the special guest.
Yay! So, Scorsese, in an interview about making film, said film is all about rhythm and release. And you can't just have, a series of climaxes one after another. And you have to give the audience suspense and then room to breathe, and then suspense and build it again. He's such a good talent at keeping that pace and building suspense over, Zodiac is just like a pretty slow build the whole way. And so that, along with some of the technical things he does, his color palette that Laura mentioned, some nerdy like bleach bypass stuff he does in Fight Club, and shaking cameras with some very interesting things, along with his journey, from Alien 3 to Fight Club, and quite often on this list having to fight with some studio for something that he wanted to do or didn't want to do. And I love those aspects of his story and his career, and that's why he's one of my faves.
Yeah, Lola?
I have to say it's weird to hear myself called Laura on the podcast, because my podcast name is Lola. My nickname is Lola.
Edit that out.
And he doesn't call me that at home, so it's funny. Just in case anyone was confused, I have multiple names and different personalities, probably because I saw Seven when I was 11
it's
years
like
old.
Beyonce,
yeah,
Sasha
just
Fierce.
like
Yes.
it. I do really appreciate David Fincher's work. He is not my favorite director, and he is not in the top 3 of my favorite directors, but I think that he really just has like the whole vision in his head, and to me that is so incredibly powerful when you bring it to the screen. Like, I feel like his storyboards must be the most epic, amazing things that you've ever seen. And you hear all these stories about him putting his characters through, or his actors through, 70 to 90 takes to get that perfect thing, because he is like, this is what I have. I'm a taskmaster. Like Robert Downey Jr. said he was a disciplinarian that he wanted to garrote multiple times on the set of Zodiac. But that is a fantastic performance that Robert Downey Jr. gives in Zodiac. And it matches perfectly with what Fincher saw in his head. And some directors can show up on set and wing it and get great stuff. Some directors trust their actors to bring something. Fincher is much more hands-on, micromanaging everything, but it leads to beautiful film work. You know what I mean? And I think, like, I will forever be impressed with Seven and Social Network and Gone Girl in these films. And I think he's just a visionary.
Yeah, most definitely. I love Fincher because when I think about my top 20 favorite films of all time, there are 3 of his films in there. That's a lot for your top 20, and I see a lot of films.
Yeah, for your films of all time, you've probably seen 17 times more movies than me.
Oh, yeah. Like, I love Fincher because I love the way he directs. I like the way he tells stories, like I mentioned several times in this podcast. I don't feel like he pulls away from those things that everyone else is too afraid to do, which is why he fights the studios for those moments that he wants, because he knows it'll be good. If I was a director, I would be that type of director that's always looking for that perfect take. I don't know about 70, I don't know about 90, but like 20. I want that perfect thing, so when I go to post-production, I want to be able to have multiple options of what take that I want. And I feel like it sucks, but when you stress out your actors in a certain way, you do pull out amazing performances sometimes. Like Shelley Duvall, we talked about it on the Best One, Worst One for Kubrick.
Ridiculous.
Like, at the end, she complained about it throughout shooting, but at the end, she was like, it got the performance out of me. Like, it sucked. My hair was falling out, but at the end, it was a great performance, and it's a performance that's talked about since the movie came out. You know what I mean? So stuff like that is what just makes Fincher an incredible filmmaker to me. Again, I love his editing. I just love everything this guy does, except, which is the unfortunate film on his resume, which is
Benjamin Buttons.
Alien.
He told Ed Norton to actually hit Brad Pitt.
I did not know that.
Ed Norton did actually hit Brad Pitt at
How
the direction.
fun would it be to throw a punch right at Brad Pitt? I love Brad Pitt. I'm not saying I hate Brad Pitt. I'm just saying, like, to punch someone as beautiful as Brad Pitt in
I'm
the
pretty
face.
sure that's against the rules. I don't think you can actually hit people on film sets.
Well, you just don't tell on anybody and you move on. You know what I mean?
It
Fight
depends.
Club? This is the first rule, man.
It depends on what the movie is, but I would want to know if my actors are okay with being slapped, because I think actually seeing someone being slapped for real, you get more of what it's actually like. Like I keep forgetting her name, but the actress from Inglourious Basterds, the one that's actually being choked by Tarantino, as fucked up as it is, it looks real because she was actually turning purple. It's fucked up, and I would never want to do that to someone else, but when you go that extra mile, I just feel like it brings something else and it just adds an extra layer to a film.
Wow.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I respect your right to feel that way.
I wouldn't want to do that to my actors, but
Tarantino probably wanted to choke her too. He was like, come over here.
That's a topic for another podcast.
Well, and here's the thing. Fincher knew Brad Pitt enough to know that he could tell Norton to go punch him for real. And Brad Pitt would be like, you're right. That's what needed to happen. And I should have not known about it.
Yeah.
Because he knows Brad Pitt.
I always think about the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio cuts his hand in Django and how beautiful of a scene that is. And it wasn't planned and it wasn't accident, and he just rolled with it. And I think a good actor will roll with things like that happen. I also can imagine that certain actors, if you punch them in the face for real on the set, they're going to have a word with you after.
Yeah.
And that's their right.
And he may have.
I mean, I may not be an actor, but you can't punch me in the face at work.
Yeah. I prefer not to be.
Yeah, I would prefer that.
I prefer to make it through the whole day without getting slapped in the mouth.
Yeah. Also, what kind of movie are you making, James?
Yeah, we're choking people, we're slapping people, we're taking 90 takes. Come on.
I don't know. You'll find out sometime in the future.
What website will it be on?
How many of your cameras are in my home right now?
All right, guys, I think this is the perfect spot to wrap it up here. Nate, it was a blast to have you on the podcast, man. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that people know that when I reference a fiancé, he's a real person.
I'm real. Here I am.
You're not just a body pillow with Chris Evans' picture on it.
Again, this was so much fun to do. Make sure you guys are following us all over social media at C4Spoilers. Make sure you head over to carefulforspoilers.com to find all of the latest news in movies, TV shows, anime, gaming, and to find links to all of our different podcasts. We got some new shows coming up. Make sure to go over to patreon.com/C4Spoilers. Over there, you will see all of our exclusive content. Once you become a patron, you can follow our Patreon exclusive Instagram feed, where I release behind the scenes photos. I'll be giving little mini reviews of movies that I see now and again, and there's a lot more exclusive content coming for you guys. So thank you guys again so much for listening, and I hope to see you here on the next episode.